This is Thoughts with C, J, and L.
A podcast by three Asian American people with thoughts on being Asian, American, and people.
In this episode, we're talking about dissociation.
Start us
Mm,
off, Timothy.
I'm thinking.
Oh boy.
Clearly, because I haven't had any thoughts.
Because she's been dissociating.
Uh-huh. All right. Well, it's been a while since we last recorded, and I feel like one of the reasons we stopped recording was because we kind of stopped having thoughts. Actually, that's not really true. I think a lot of times when we like call each other, we notice that there's just a lot of things that are going on and a lot of things that we have to do that there's just not enough. There's too much happening and there's not enough time or energy to process anything, and then we end up just not having thoughts. And so that is why we are here today to discuss dissociation and why it happens. So, to
Why
start,
does it happen?
yeah, why does it happen?
Well, I think there's just too much happening. And we'll probably get into it, but I don't know. I don't even know how to talk anymore.
I feel like this is almost the opposite of our change episode, where I felt like in that era, we as a collective, maybe I'm generalizing, but at least for myself, I had a lot of time to think about everything, and there wasn't that much that was happening. And then so I was like, wow, I can reflect on everything and be like, these are my feelings, and these are my thoughts, and this is what I think about things. And then I feel like we also mentioned something along the lines of we're like scared of change, but then also we need to experience things in order to reflect on things. And so maybe the next era is us experiencing things. And you know what? I feel like we have been experiencing too much.
It's true.
I think I have like 10 experiences every single day.
That's relatable.
No, I agree. I think, well, yes, I have recently, in particular, have been experiencing many things. Many not the best things, but okay, no, I've experienced this past summer, I experienced the best month of my life or best month of my year, followed immediately by like the worst month of my year by far. So it was like a lot of experiences in an 8-week period that I'm still like, I don't think I processed the good experiences. And then I just was like the I don't know, just all over the place with experiences. But oh my gosh, I was literally gonna say something about what you said, Jam, and I lost it. I don't know. It's gone.
She's experiencing too much.
I know we may have to extend our recording time because I've got nothing. Uh,
Okay, I feel like I too have been experiencing many things. I think especially after going through PT school and like moving to a new city. And also now I am no longer in Chicago and I've been experiencing many things and many chaos since moving. But I think what I've noticed is that because my life became so busy, I didn't have time to think about, okay, what just happened? How did that affect me? How do I feel about it? And I only have time and energy to think about, okay, what is the next thing I have to do? Like, what do I need to get done next? And like, what do I have to do tomorrow? And it's always kind of looking for the next step in order to survive or like maintain myself. And then like when I do have like free time, I spend that time just trying to relax and trying to turn my brain off because too much has been going on. And then so it's like there's no time whatsoever to reflect and think about things. And I've also noticed that this makes conversations really hard because if I don't reflect on things, then I have no thoughts and I don't have anything to say except for what just happened or what has been like happening. objectively. And that makes conversations really boring.
Okay, yeah, no, I got you. Because, well, Loho and I were talking about this yesterday during our Yap sesh. But okay, so I feel like, well, you started on change, right? I think I was at a point a couple years ago before going to grad school where I felt like I really knew who I was and like what I liked and what I didn't like and what my interests were and all of that. Like I just like knew. And if you asked me things about myself, like I would have answers for them, which is like such a basic concept, but I think a lot of things have changed since then. It's been quite a while. Well, I don't know if it's been that long of a time, but like again, a lot of experiences. I've moved, started work, met a bajillion new people, and like we're all always changing, right? Like nobody is ever the same for even like a little bit of time. We're always changing. But then I think for me, there's just been so much change, and because there's just been so much going on, I definitely haven't spent time or even had the time, or sometimes it's like I do, but then it's too hard and I don't want to like think about the ways that I've changed. And like if I'm going to be honest, I think I don't know that I like the changes that I think I might see in myself, since the last time I was more in touch with where I was at personally. And I think that's part of the hard thing too, is like it's really hard when you don't necessarily know how you feel about the ways that you've changed, like processing that and understanding that. And so it's easier to just not think about it. But then like you end up where I'm at now, where I'm like, I'm so lost. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Um, yeah, I don't know.
Well, what do you think?
Um, I also haven't had time to figure things out. I don't know. I also think like the things that we're doing are becoming increasingly more difficult, and that takes up a lot of brain space. And you don't necessarily, I don't know, you do need to reflect on a lot of things. And I think like for me, I've realized that I need my like me time. And I don't know if this will help. And I think I'm kind of derailing from the conversation a bit, but I found that like I need to have like a moment with myself of not even reflecting, just letting myself think. And like Kat was talking about this with me yesterday. Like there's no time to be yourself really, or like to unpack everything with yourself. Or even just like be yourself. I feel like for me personally, like I'm in the hospital 7 to 3 or 4. Like if it's like a short day. And so that's like most of my day. And then I get home and I need to study. And that I don't necessarily need my personality for any of those. Like, your personality can like seep through in the conversations you have with your patients or your coworkers. But I feel like that's not my true self isn't in the workplace. So I've had to like every day, I think I try to exercise at least once or twice, like once. And it doesn't matter if it's like 10 minutes or like an hour, but I need to like do that in my own peace. Does that make sense? And then like on Sundays, I've chosen a day where I can reflect. And so that's like when I go on my long runs and kind of just process everything. And I think that has made me feel a lot better. But also, I think, sorry, I'm also rambling now, but like going off of Kat's thing about like not being able to understand yourself or like be able to be who you are as a person in your truest form. I found that like, so I have my work and then I have like my home, and home I can be pretty like myself, but all the times when I'm home, I'm still working or studying or something. And then like my home is with my classmates who are my friends. But but you don't really get the dissociation of like from work sometimes because you're just talking about work sometimes. So I think also I found the importance of like needing a third place. And for me, that was Frisbee. And I don't have that where I am now. But like last week, I went to go to Frisbee, but the drive was like an hour and a half, and I can't really do that anymore. So I need to like find a third place to be myself. And I don't know if it's like maybe we dissociate and we need to process things, but I also think we need like a space to be able to be ourselves, because I think that also helps us process. Like I feel like I don't know, we shouldn't need to process everything, we can just experience it. I don't even know what it means to process anything anymore. Anyways, that was my intro take.
No, that's so good. No, literally, I think that's my problem. Like that was my realization yesterday, honestly. Like from all this is like I don't think I'm like ever myself anymore, which is really sad. But that's
Yeah.
just like where I've ended up, you know, like the people, my friends here, like they're great. I don't know. I think in just a lot of ways, like when you're breaking down your day, my day is pretty similar where I'm like, I'm at work and then I go and I hang out and like my friends are all great, but I think in a lot of ways, at least the ones that I see more regularly around here, we're also super different in a lot of ways that I maybe am not like as vulnerable about. I don't know. I feel like I'm just there and I'm like, I feel like an AI low key. I'm like, it's not great, but I think because I don't have a lot of time built into my day where I can be myself around other people, like there's just so many blocks where, because we have ourselves and we have our personality, but we also have to like be ourselves around other people too. Like that's, I think, really important because your personality in a lot of ways is how you are perceived and how you interact with people. And so, like for me, if I'm just on the defense or like acting or just trying to like, play the part or whatever, like of course you're gonna check out and you're not gonna think about things as they're happening.
I agree. I feel like okay, maybe this is something that I just didn't realize. I notice now that I like dissociate in conversation, which I've never used to do. Like, I just be sitting there being like, wow, I really, not that I don't enjoy the conversation, but I'm like, oh, I'm not engaged in this at all. And I don't know why. And I usually am. I feel like I'm a pretty social person, but I think that like my friends here in school like don't know me as that. And I feel like that might be because like I don't know why I just like can't engage in like really fruitful conversation sometimes. And I don't know if it's like actually I have no idea what it is. But I'm
Wait,
just saying that I agree with you. I can't contribute anything. I don't feel like contributing anything. Yeah, like okay, wait, sorry, you said what? Wait, why did you say that?
oh no, I was gonna say I completely agree with that. I feel like I've had a lot less curiosity in other people, and I feel like usually I'm able to keep like conversations going, and I am able to like probe at like different aspects of a topic that make conversations a little bit more interesting. But I feel like lately I haven't been able to do that, and I've found myself in a lot more situations where maybe I'll like ask a question, like a generic question, and then they'll answer and be like, oh, okay. And then I have nothing else to say because my mind is just completely empty. And I feel like part of that, I feel like it's because I'm not thinking about my own life. And so if I'm not thinking about things in depth, I find it hard to relate to other people because, like, usually the way that I keep conversations going is that I find like something in what they've said, and I'm like, ooh, that is interesting because I've thought of that. Or like, I've experienced something similar, or even like, oh, I haven't experienced that and I've never thought about that. And so, like, tell me more. Uh,
Yeah.
and I feel like a lot of that curiosity and interest comes from when I know what I know about myself and I'm able to navigate the conversation that way. But because I feel like I haven't been thinking a lot, and then my brain just kind of shuts off during conversations, and I'm like, all right, got nothing else to say. Let's move on. Uh,
Yeah.
I feel like that is very relatable. And I also felt like you describing your day in the hospital was also relatable because I mean like when I'm on clinicals, I'm also interacting with patients a lot. And like when you're interacting with patients, you're providing space for them to like for them to tell you like what's going on, like what their frustrations are. And that's not like a space where you're gonna be like, oh, like let me tell you about me. This is what I think. Like, unless it's like for educational purposes or like something that's like directly related to their situation. But yeah, I feel like I found myself in a lot of situations where I'm providing space for other people. And if I'm like constantly in that space and it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to be thinking about myself and like what I think about things. I'm going to be thinking about like, oh, how are my words going to be affecting this person and like the way they think and react to, like whatever I'm telling them is not like, oh, this is what I actually think. And then so this is why I'm going to tell you. It's like, oh, I'm telling you this so that hopefully like it'll like be helpful in some way to you. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like it's hard to always be in that space because then I feel like it also takes away the energy for you to think about yourself and be like, huh, what do I think?
Yeah. A lot of the, I don't know if this is true for you, but a lot of the time it's like whatever I think doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
Because I'm still learning. But I
Yeah.
also think, do you think like part of the work that you guys do you think it like takes away from your curiosity about things? Or like, I don't know, maybe just the work in it of itself is just tiring, so you're feeling like a little jaded or anything like
Well,
that?
I feel like I have low key, it might be the opposite. Well, it might be different for you guys, like with patient and medicine, but like I think a lot of times for me, we have to like think about these really complicated system level problems. You ask a bunch of questions, you try to help solve, but it's such a big system. It's so unwieldy that a lot of times you're like, we spend all this time developing these questions, developing these evaluations, and we do this stuff, we do the research, we do the whatever. And like, then we give it to our client and like, who knows what happens, you know? Like, does it really matter that we asked all these questions and like maybe found answers to some of them? Like, I don't know if it really matters. And I think sometimes I'm like, maybe that's just rubbed off on how I approach things. Or maybe it's like getting older and your brain is just firming up. You don't care about answers to things anymore because it's like, does it really matter? I don't know. Like when you're growing up and learning about the world, I think maybe just biologically. Well, I don't know if this is true or not. This is all hypothetical. But like maybe your brain is just in general more curious because you need to be to learn about the world. And then you hit a certain point, your brain starts smoothing out and you just don't care.
I don't know. I feel like parts of what you said also resonate with like the work that I do, where
hmm
the questions that we ask aren't always from a place of curiosity. Sometimes it's like, okay, we have to ask these questions for like safety and stuff like that. And other times it's like, okay, I want to like ask this question and then like to support like whatever hypothesis is in my head. And then like, oh, I also don't want to ask these questions because like I know if I ask this question, it's gonna like provoke more anxiety in this person about their condition. And then like it's I feel like it's at the end of the day, it's also about finding solutions. It's not just asking questions to try to like let the person talk because like they're coming to us not for a therapy session, but to get like actual like tangible answers. So I feel like in a way it's like also very like, yeah, we're asking these questions to find a solution. But like I don't really know where I'm going with this.
No, I think I know. Okay. Tell me if you resonate with this at all. But so I'm currently in internal medicine. So basically it's like anyone who goes to the ED and then turns out like they need to be in the hospital for a couple days, it's like you take care of them. And basically the goal of it is to get them out of there. So it doesn't matter, what they're, I mean, it does matter. Like you treat their chronic conditions and you say like, okay, they have diabetes. You're going to continue to treat their diabetes and make sure that they're okay after. But really the point of it is to get them out of there. So like whatever brought them in, you just want to stop that so that they can go somewhere else outpatient and make them more stable. So then they have all these problems, and then you're like, okay, they have all these problems. Like this guy's homeless, doesn't have access to food, doesn't matter. That's not why they're in the hospital. Maybe it is, but like at the end of the day, the job of a hospitalist is to get them out of there. You don't want them in the hospital anymore. You want them more stable. And like as I'm trying to figure out what specialty I want to do, I'm like, I don't know if I actually like really want to do that because it sounds like all the questions that I'm asking, yes, it's important because it's life saving, literally, but at the same time, it's like, it's life saving in the short term, and I don't really know where it's going. So then you're like, what was the point of any of this if, like, I'm going to make sure their heart's still beating, but then, like, they don't have access to food later on. So they're going to eat bad food, and then their heart's going to die anyways. So it's like, what is the point of asking all these questions? So, anyways, that was a long-winded way to say I feel like I resonate with you in a different way, or both of you in a different way. That's just so weird. And I don't know if that's actually what you guys are going for, but that's what
No,
it
that
seemed like
is.
to me.
Yeah, I think it is. It's like there's an agenda behind like what you're doing, how you're interacting with other persons, not like okay, let's both be our genuine selves and get to know each other. It's like, okay, like I'm asking these questions because I have a goal in mind.
And then the goal gets accomplished, but then you still don't even know if you feel like anything actually got done.
Yeah. Which it's like you do need to accomplish the smaller goals so you can get to the bigger ones. But I feel like we're all pretty, like all three of us are very broad picture people. And so when we're like, okay, we got this problem done, but where's it going? Like, what was the point of doing that one goal if we can't achieve the next part? So I feel like, I don't know. We have to do something about it. Or we don't even, I don't know. And I think that's where like most people, maybe that's like where adulthood like hits a little bit and why our brains smooth over because we're like, all right, we got to this goal. It's like being a fish in a fishbowl, but you're big brain fish. So you're like, okay, what's the point of me swimming around in this if it's like if I'm not in the ocean? Does that make sense? I like a lot of people are like, well, I did my job, but now what? And I think
Yeah.
that's where like a lot of people get jaded because yeah, you think about it, it's like we do have impact in everyone's job. Like I think everyone's job does matter and it makes like the system go round, but like the system that we're in isn't built for most jobs to accomplish much, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It's like, well, if we're gonna go for the fishbowl analogy, you've been swimming along your whole life. You don't realize you're in a fishbowl. You think you're in the ocean. And all of a sudden, one day you hit the wall. That's the fishbowl. You like keep slamming yourself into it repeatedly, and you're like, fuck, I'm in a fishbowl. Like, okay, do I like comply and just swim around in the fishbowl like all the other fish? Which is really honestly easier, even though like things are still happening, life is still going, and you want to keep going and pushing like and push past the fishbowl. And then you're like, oh, okay, damn, like I'm just gonna be like all the other fish in this fishbowl that I thought was an ocean. Or I don't know, you just keep slamming yourself into the fishbowl and maybe it'll break and you'll like get out, but probably not because a lot of other fish have also tried to do that, I'm sure. I don't know, it's kind of sad.
Wow, that's such a good analogy.
What's the other? We had a similar fish analogy. Like, was it a water analogy?
I think
It
at
was.
that point we thought we were in the ocean.
And now we've hit our heads too many times.
And we don't have thoughts. We just have concussions.
Hi, this is concussions with W, X, and Y.
No.
Yeah, and then it's also like you can't keep slamming your head into the wall because you also have to do a bunch of other things at the same time. So you're like, I have to keep swimming, but like
Hmm.
I have to keep feeding myself. I have to keep working. I have to do blah blah blah. So I don't know. That's why one of us needs to be president. I think that's like the only.
Nose goes, not me.
No, being president's not the answer.
I don't know what the answer is.
Maybe that's the point. But I also feel like you have to like reframe your goals sometimes in a sense. Like I think sometimes I think about it, I'm like, okay, what do I want my role to be like as a physician or like a person in the community? Like what do I want to do? And if you feel like you're making impact somewhere, you are like no longer in the fishbowl. Like is the fishbowl just to frame like your mindset? Who knows? Because like
Yeah, maybe.
if you're like, I'm actually not in a fishbowl, the things that I can do despite being in what I perceive to be a fishbowl, you can make yourself think that you're in the ocean.
Hmm.
Or like, as a community member, I want to accomplish this. Or like, as someone in their 20s, this is what I think like my role is. You don't even need to have a role, but like, maybe we don't necessarily need to limit ourselves. Maybe we think we're in a fishbowl, but really like, we hit the sunken Titanic and we just need to go around it or something. I don't know. What's a hard item that can be found in the ocean? A boat? I'm not
An
good with
iceberg?
analogies.
Maybe we hit an iceberg. I
Maybe
don't
an
know.
iceberg. You think that's why you guys dissociate? Because you're like, well, I don't want to face the fact that I am in a fishbowl.
Maybe. I feel like that probably is one of the reasons. I think that, and then also just not having felt like myself in a really long time, and then not knowing even like what it might feel like to feel like myself anymore because it's been so long. And then it's like, what's
Yeah,
the point of like feeling like yourself? Does it really matter? I can just keep going, you know?
I feel like it is important.
No, it is. It is.
Like-
I said that cynically.
Oh, okay, just making sure.
Honestly, I feel like for me, it's more about the busyness rather than, I was gonna say rather than purpose, because I feel like it's just like too many things that are coming my way. And it's like me trying to juggle everything. and that's why I don't want to think about things. I mean, there definitely are like moments where I'm like, what's the point of all of this? Like, I wish I could just like not have to work and just lay in bed. But I feel like for me, it's more so about the sustainability of it all.
I feel like that, to me, that feels like stuff that we've talked about in the past too, of like what we're driven by and like how we differ based off of like how we prefer to run our lives and stuff. Because I think you've always talked a lot about like stability and sustainability. So that makes sense. I feel like I think those things matter to me too. And honestly, as I've gotten older, I'm like, those things are, I think, a lot more important than I previously have prioritized them. But it's also like I know that I've always been a very like I need to be real with myself about what I'm doing and why I'm doing things. And I think I've definitely lost some of that over the years.
What do you wait? Can you guys elaborate more on everything?
I don't know.
I don't know if this is part of it, but I feel like yes, PT is like a big part of my life and like I'm doing a lot of things for this career in PT, but I honestly don't think it's like that big of part of my identity. And then so like it's like busy and I'm like, oh, there's a lot of things I have to do, but I feel like I'm not as caught up on like, oh, like what I mean, okay, like there are times where I'm like, when I was like an inpatient in my inpatient rotation, like I had the same thoughts as like Loho of like, oh, like our goal is just to like get the patient out of the hospital and like we would see the patient maybe like once or twice and like get them to like sit up, walk around, and then they would get discharged and I don't know like what happened to them. And so like that was a time where I'm like, oh, like what am I even doing here? Like, am I really like doing anything? But I think maybe it's an identity thing where like I'm like if my work is like not the most meaningful, I'm like okay with that if I get the time and energy to do other things that I enjoy, like frisbee. Although like I've taken on a lot more responsibilities with frisbee this season, and so sometimes like those responsibilities also like drain a little bit more time and energy, but it's like TLDR is like I don't put as much like weight on the purpose of my career. But maybe you two put more weight on it, which is why it's a lot more draining to see it not seem purposeful.
I think I agree with you on one hand in the sense that like work is work, right? Like your work won't love you back, so you can't love your job. And like at the end of the day, it's a 9 to 5, clock in, clock out, right? But I think I also spent a lot of time like during undergrad, like just after post undergrad, trying to figure out. I mean, like I quit a bajillion. I was talking to somebody about this actually over the summer, but like I quit a bajillion different potential career aspects because I just like the vibe didn't fit, right? Like, so I think even though I definitely do have like a mental block with work. And honestly, I think some of this is coming in just because I like have a different personality at work. I feel like a different person at work, honestly. Like at the end of the day, I think I picked my career path and like all of that because I felt like I agreed with, or like there was some sort of like purpose in that career, even if it is like, even if I have boundaries on it, like it's work, it's whatever. It's still like I think during my 9 to 5, I have hopes and dreams about what I want to accomplish at work, you know? So I think that's something that I was thinking about when you were talking. And then outside of work, I think I've also in parallel been experiencing like kind of a loss of identity because I think I used to think like, oh, outside of work, I'm going to have my hobbies, I'm going to have whatever. But it's just one of my friends recently posted this book on their story. And it's called It Has Always Been My Desire to Be an Artist, but I find it incredibly fucking difficult. And I think that's kind of where I'm at, like outside of work too, is like I feel like I have all these things that I want to do and like things that I think are cool and interesting, whether it be like specifically art related or not. But it's just like with life and like having to live life, it's just so hard to be all of those things at once. And so I don't know. I don't know if that was like directly responding to what you were saying, but that's like what I was thinking of when you were talking.
Like I think it's maybe it's like okay to dissociate in certain as like certain parts of your life, but then it's not healthy to be dissociated for the entirety of your life. Like,
Yeah.
like it's like, okay, yeah, like work is work. And I feel like you can have a good balance of like, oh, if I'm just like going to work, just like as routine and like you dissociate at work or like you're not feeling like completely yourself. But then like when you come home and you do the things that you like and spend your energy on like things that you're passionate about, then you're like investing more of like yourself and like showcasing more of yourself in that, which I think makes life more colorful. But then I think it's hard if it's like, oh, in like both of those spaces, it's like I don't feel like myself and I feel like I am not passionate about it. And then I'm just going through the motions of all of this. So yeah, I feel like for me, obviously I'm still like trying to do my best at work and like trying to do my best to be like, okay, like I'm in this situation or like this setting, like how can I best help the person in front of me? And I'm a little bit more okay with not like completely myself, but then like when I'm done with work and I'm like, okay, like I feel like I can be myself when I'm at Frisbee or like when I'm with friends. And then like those are the moments that are like, okay, like this makes life a little bit more okay, even if I'm not like feeling myself at work.
TLDRs.
TLDR, I'm tired. I'm tired of this, Grandpa.
TLDR. Okay, Loho didn't say this analogy today, but she said it yesterday. We're all lobsters and we're just molting right now. So it's kind of rough, but it'll be okay eventually, and we're not gonna feel like this forever, and it'll be good.
TLDR, even if we're all in this fishbowl, just keep swimming. Bye, Jane.
Bye, Jane.
Bye, Jane. I forgot we did that.
I was
That's
like,
how you know
something is
it's been too
missing.
Sorry, Jane.
All right, I'm stopping the
At least I was gonna say, at least we're all in this fishbowl together. We aren't in our individual fishbowls.
What if
It's like
we
everything everywhere all at once.
what if we build our commune in the fishbowl?
Oh my God. No, we got to get out of the fishbowl. That was the whole analogy. We can't stay in the fishbowl. All right, stop the recording.